Morning guys, so it's going to be an incredibly busy day today for me. It's Saturday morning and one of the plans for today was going to be to get the grass cut. Now, unfortunately, we've had yet another mower breakdown. You can see it there, just stranded in the lawn, and I hate that I am so beholden to others when it comes to mechanics. I'm literally clueless, no idea at all with mechanics. It's something on my list of things that I really need to correct. I do need to learn how to do some fundamental repairs, sort of some rudimentary diagnosis on a 4-stroke engine, but I wouldn't know where to start, so I'm beholden to others. So I've tried to arrange to have it fixed. I've called the company, the local company that previously came and took it away for a service in the summer. And because it's Saturday, basically, they said, can you call back Monday? And we'll have a look at our diary. So, I mean, you can see the grass doesn't look too bad here, but I can assure you it's getting quite long and it did really need cutting. The problem is, you see, once it gets too long, it takes so much longer to then cut it, because then you've got to cut it sort of 2 or 3 times really to get it all back, because it builds up clumps. You all know what it's like to cut grass. But yeah, so anyway, we are where we are. We're beholden to others on that. So I'm going to go round and quickly feed the bigger animals. My wife's done the hens. She's gone to her parents for the day with the children. So I'm going to feed the bigger animals. And then I'm going to be spending, hopefully, some of the day in the kitchen. We're going to be doing some preserving. We've got some courgettes that I want to make into some more chutney. And we've got some pears that I want to preserve in a syrup. Like when you buy canned fruit that's in syrup, I want to preserve some pears that way. What else? I've also got to go drive down to where my bees are. My bees are still currently in bee lockdown, so I need to drive down to where they are and give them basically a feed. I'll talk to you a bit more about that in the kitchen, because that's where I'm going to be making the feed. I've also got to make some kombucha. Lots and lots going on today. Those of you that follow the podcast will already know this, because I spoke about it on Friday's episode. But I've made a decision. I've made all the decisions that can be made at this point about the pigs as well. So we are going to butcher one, we're going to keep one, and we're going to breed it. So I've arranged to bring in some boars. We're going to have some boar weaners, basically piglets that are male. We're going to go through our usual process of raising 2 or 3 up, probably 2, to basically slaughter weight, at which point we're going to slaughter one and then keep one with one of our current females as a breeding pair. So I've just been thinking more and more about it. So economically, it just makes far too much sense to do it any other way. We're paying about 40 or 45 pounds every year per piglet that we buy. And when you think a litter has anything from 8 to 15 piglets in, and this is effectively a resource that we can be producing ourselves, it just makes no sense to do it any other way. So not only will we be saving ourselves the, let's say for instance, £90 a year that we're spending on 2 piglets, sometimes £120 or whatever, depending on whether we're doing 2 or 3. So not only are we saving that, but we'll also be able to sell the other weaners at £40 each. And let's say we only have 8 in our litter and we keep 3. So worst case scenario, you know, on what would have been an expensive year for us, then we're still going to be selling 5. And that's £200 in the income column, as opposed to £90 in the outgoing column. So it's a net difference of £300 a year. So it just makes far too much sense to do it that way, and that's of course in the worst years. So that's the decision I've made. It's a decision made predominantly on economics. There's also logistics. You know, it's a lot easier to do it that way rather than me having to go out and pick up these piglets every year and bring them home. It'll be someone else who's got to come here and pick up their piglets. A lot less effort for me, which is nice. So that brings us on to the other decision, and that is that I am going to be slaughtering and butchering here. And how I'm going to do it, you've heard me speak before. The main problem I was having with this was the facility. Effectively, I need somewhere that the whole carcass can chill for around 24 hours. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wait, because we're only a few weeks away now from the weather turning, and I'm going to effectively wait until the outside temperature here is fridge temperature, and I'm going to use that as my fridge. So I'm going to be able to do it all on site here. Now, the only other thing that I don't have is a really nice like butchering space. Like in an ideal world, you'd have this big walk-in fridge with stainless steel worktops and everything, but this is a very recent development. I'm at work, for a client, I'm going to be refitting their kitchen, and by pure chance, in this person's domestic kitchen, they've got stainless steel worktops. So I'm going to take their kitchen out and I'm going to build it in my wood. And then effectively what I've got, when the temperature drops, is I've got a commercial style refrigerated unit with stainless steel worktops. So I'm really thrilled. About that. It does mean I do need to be a little bit careful with keeping pests away, flies and stuff, but I've got a plan for that as well. We'll effectively wrap the carcasses in some kind of sheeting, whether it's tarpaulin or something else, to keep the pests out while we allow rigor to set in and set out. So that's the plan. I apologise if there's any vegetarians or vegans following. I'm not making any judgments, and I'm just telling you what I'm doing, showing what I'm doing. And I certainly think that if you choose to live a vegan life, that is a morally and ethically excellent place to stand. I also think where I stand is as well, but I accept that opinions differ. But I'm certainly not judging or trying to tell anyone what to do. I'm just showing what I'm doing. So we're gonna feed these girls now. They've followed me around like they always do when they hear me. And it's a bit earlier than normal, but I'm going to feed them so that's out of the way, and then I can get into the kitchen and get on with the other job. So I'm going to leave those girls eating away there, and I'm just going to walk back through the wood. This is the pig wood. This is their home. It just occurred to me, I've never really shared this space with you. The reason is, when we've got pigs in here, I just don't come in here all that often, and I was struck by that. Also, when I came to fell those trees last week, I was struck by that. I actually hadn't taken enough notice of this space, and I just felt that I should make an effort to spend a little bit more time in here. So I think I'm going to walk through this wood various different ways every time I feed the pigs for the next little while, just to refamiliarize myself and sort of get caught up on what's going on in here. It's a habitat that has the potential to have quite a lot of mushrooms in. I don't know how likely we are to see anything of significance while the pigs are in here, but it is certainly possible, and it's just one that I've kind of neglected a little bit, so I just wanted to reconnect with it. So to preserve these pears, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash them, I'm going to quarter them, I'm going to core them, I'm going to leave the skins on, and then at the same time I'm going to prepare a syrup, which is basically just water and sugar. We're going to use a light syrup, which is 3 parts sugar by volume to 10 parts water. So we're going to create that syrup, and then we're going to bring that to the boil. We're going to add the pears to it. We're going to let it boil for just maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And then we're going to can it. We're just going to bottle it like we would a jam or anything else with nice sterile jars. Over here, I've got our kombucha on, and here is our feed for our bees. So this is basically a really saturated sugar syrup, and it's what the bees will feed on, and they'll take the sugar from it and make their stores to help them get through the winter. Because it's a young colony and they haven't had a full season to develop and grow their numbers and forage and everything else, they're going to need that feed to help get their numbers up and stay strong and make it through the winter. I'm also going to be making a courgette and tomato and chili chutney. And we're going to be using green tomatoes. We've got a lot of green tomatoes from plants that we had to pull because they were starting to show signs of blight, and we had to take the tomatoes. Now, they will ripen eventually, but I'm quite happy to use the green ones mixed in with some red ones in the chutney. So that's going to be how I'm spending the rest of my day, I think. Oh, of course, and taking the syrup up to the bees. Most of these pears are underripe, which is perfect for this type of preservation because we're going to boil them slightly, which will soften them. But I've come across this one, which is just perfect, and I'm not going to be able to resist. I do love a perfectly ripe pear. Pears are one of the fruits, I've said this before, that will ripen off the tree, which is fantastic because it means if you've got pest issues, we've got a couple of wasps' nests very near our pear tree this year, and we've been able to harvest them before they succumbed to that pest pressure and allow them to ripen off the tree, which is very, very useful indeed. So that's now as many pears as I'm going to get in there, I think. So I'm going to put the lid on that. We're going to carry on bringing that to the boil. And I'm just going to let it simmer for a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. And in the meantime, I've got my jars in the oven sterilising, ready for when they're done. If you're interested in my courgette chutney recipe, then I have done a video on that before, and that is 6 ways to use up courgettes, or a courgette glut, something like that. And that one is easy to find. Same with kombucha. If you want my kombucha recipe, I've put that online as well. So I've just taken the first of our jars out from the oven, all sterilised, and we're now going to just decant our pears. I always just give the jar a bit of a roll round at the end to allow any trapped air to make its way up to the top. You might see a few bubbles coming up. Pop our seal on. And close our jar. So that is our pears preserved in syrup, and that's how we're going to be eating fresh tasting pears from our own tree well into the autumn and winter here. If you find these videos valuable, there's several ways you can support them, and the easiest of which is to just subscribe to our channel. We're producing content like this all the time, almost on a daily basis. Also, press that like button and leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching.